Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles to people throughout the world. Today, we have Wendi Saggese with us. Wendi is an international speaker leading workshops around the world. She founded Wake Up Your Wisdom, the California-based mentoring company, helping others wake up to the simple understanding which allowed her to love her life despite a cancer diagnosis. Wendi works with individuals, couples, groups, and enjoys speaking on webinars and at live conferences. Wendi, I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself a little bit more and move on to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Bonnie. Hi, everybody. So good to see you all. Cute faces. Let's see. I live in California. I guess I'll just jump right out with the principles totally changed my life and everybody in my family's life. And I'll be forever grateful for the understanding. In fact, I'm not really sure I'd be alive if I didn't have the principles, because it's relaxed me so much to the point of really seeing what's next for me, especially with the cancer diagnosis. So I'm going to address the things that I talked about in the title. But I will first say this one story. For some reason, it's coming up for me, is that I recently was in the lovely state of Florida, where Bonnie lives. And I spoke to a conference, about 300 people, and it was a cancer conference for alternative treatments. There was a lot of doctors and scientists and all kinds of big name people. And I was thinking, how did I weasel my way into this one? So I got a 40-minute spot in the beginning of the 3-day conference. And there was an energy of the people in the conference. And I remembered that energy from I was diagnosed with cancer in 2010. The energy was this intensity of people trying to listen and hear the right thing that's going to cure their cancer. And I wasn't sure what that was, but in my mind, I was like, wait, is there something wrong with me? Like, those people are so enthusiastic about finding their cure, and I feel different than them. But I was saying to my best friend, did I lose my will to live? Like, why am I not anxiously writing down notes and looking at this clinic in Mexico and this guy in Germany and CBD oil and all the many, I mean, there was tons of things. It could really make your head spin, because some of the things are contradictory. So for a few minutes, I thought that there was something like, did I give up? Oh, because shouldn't I be doing like that franticness? And sometime after the conference was over, because I spoke, as you know, at the conference, as well as I'm also a cancer person, so I was listening too for what's next for me. And at some point later, it came to me that, oh, I'm not in that desperate place anymore. It's not that I don't have a will to live. It's that I'm not desperate to find what's next. And in that desperation, it's like I'm skipping. If I was in that desperation, you're skipping out of whatever is present to enjoy in the human life right now. And it's almost like that's all you're thinking about. How am I going to figure out how to live longer? And for some reason, all the insights and the few years of really looking at these principles, what I was thinking was a bad thing, I started to see, oh, this is Wendi just relaxing into what she might hear. which is what I actually spoke about, since a lot of the alternative people there were saying contradictory things. It could just really, you could just go crazy in your head, like, which is the right one? So that frantic looking for the right thing to do left me. And out of that came a more relaxed person. And when you're in that relaxed state of mind, your IQ is higher and you hear what you need to hear. Not so much like it's magic, but just so much like all that frantic and fear is turned down. And then that allows, oh, maybe I should go in this direction with this. Because when you're on this cancer journey and you're interested in both alternative and traditional, you know, you're trying to see what maybe would be the next step in treatment plans. But can you imagine, with all that fear, that you're just almost stifled to hear anything? And that's how I was before. And it was so interesting because I hadn't been to one of these conferences in quite a while. And it was so interesting to see that. And then I actually did see some treatment things for me, for Wendi Saggese, that I was very interested in, and then just came at me. It's like getting a book. Sometimes you get a book, a friend gives you a book. It might have even been about the 3 principles. My husband heard about the 3 principles. He read a book like 30 years ago. And I hadn't even known that. But then when we went to Salt Spring Island, he said, oh, I heard that before. It's like sometimes you need it to hit you, something, or an insight to hit you from a few different things. And isn't it so funny that what was actually an insight or a new way of thinking about myself, it really looked like a problem at first. So it's like when you just kind of settle down, you could then see, oh, that's actually not a problem. It's actually an insight. Like George Pransky, once I had a session with him, and I wasn't eating the way I wanted to eat, and I wasn't doing all the things for cancer that I thought I should be doing. And he said, well, Wendi, the Wendi I know seems really pretty happy, even though she's not doing all those things. And he showed me how this upset about myself that I thought was me not doing what I should do was actually the opposite. It was actually me growing into a place where I'm so fine either way. And out of that fineness, the next step will come of what to do. So it's funny that sometimes you could think it's like an insecurity or something you're doing wrong. And if you give it a minute, you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is actually growth. This is actually progress. And I find that with a lot of my clients as well. They'll come with me, they'll be all upset about something, and I'll be like, yes, you're getting it, you know? So I guess that came up for me. But the things that I was going to talk about, I'll just be pretty brief, maybe not, and ask questions anytime. I don't care. So keeping insights out of the conceptual mind. So what I meant by that is, first of all, let's just break down what an insight is. I mean, it's become a big jargon in the principles world. But as most of us know, the truth of what an insight is, it's just a new thought. That's it. A new thought about something you never thought of it that way before. And what it does, what's so cool, is at times it could change everything in your world because you never saw it that way before. So for instance, one example is about a year or two ago, I had to make a lot of phone calls to doctors and to the receptionist behind the desk to get PET scans. And I was spending literally 3 hours a day doing this. And I was pissed. I get on the phone with these receptionists who didn't give a damn about me. And I had so much busyness about it. It's like, we're talking life and death here. They should care about me. And then I had that all mixed in with trying to be nice, but really underneath welling up like a big bad bitch. Is that bad? Sorry. Inside, I just wanted to yell at them and be mad at them and say, this is life or death we're talking about. Then I had this incredible new thought that cracked me up. It's like, here's this 25-year-old receptionist working for however many, maybe 100 people. She's answering phone calls. She has 2 kids at home. She has to make dinner. She's worried about her kid. And here I am, Wendi Saggese, dictating what should be going on in her little mind. She should care about Wendi Saggese, whether she lives or dies. And I had a big crack up about that when I saw it that way. And then all of a sudden, it changed everything, because then I got on the phone for the next week of the 3 hours a day of calling. I put on the TV and I just waited. And I knew anytime it came in my head that she was being a certain way or rude to me, I knew that that was just me, that that's not true, that that's just total silliness. She's in her reality, I'm in my reality. And why on earth do I need her to care about me? Does that validate me? Like, what is it with you, Wendi? You know? And so once I saw that new thought, it changed the way I got on the phone. And it made it a much more pleasant experience. And then when I'd hear inside me this bitch, she should be, I'd say, remember, sweetheart, that's you. That's silly of you to think that this 20-something should care about you. Why do you need her to care about you? Why? You know? So that was what I feel like happens with an insight. Like then after that, every time I make a phone call, I can relax and have a good time. Maybe not a good time, but maybe not so angry. I felt the angst in my shoulders. I was getting mad every time they'd be a certain way. So then the next thing, sorry about my dog Peter in the background. The next thing, so is keeping insights out of the conceptual mind. So what made me decide to think about this was, now we know that insights are just which we always knew, are just a new thought. So I'm going to use my son as an example. He's 17 years old, and if you've heard me talk, he plays baseball pretty competitively. And he also is on lots of little videos about PTSD, because he learned about the principles together as a family. We learned together. And he listens to Sid Banks every night, really literally. He goes to sleep listening to Sid Banks. Well, he skips some nights, but he really listens to it and really likes it. So one night he comes in the morning and he says, I had this insight about being one with the ball. Now the ball in baseball, if you're from England, it comes at you even as a teenager between 80 and 90 miles an hour. So he had a thought from Sid Banks about being one with the ball. I personally don't know what that means, but that day he hit the ball 3 out of 3 times, 1 home run. And that's kind of a miracle thing, because usually a great baseball player will hit the ball 3 out of 7 times. Well, the following day in Wendi Saggese's mind, I was thinking, we're at a baseball game. There's college scouts there. There's no way after having a perfect game that he's going to do well, because that's just not humanly possible. So, but I sat back. I was just trying to relax myself, because I get a little bit of angst when I'm watching him. And he hit a home run. He might have hit 2 home runs that day. He hit a home run. So he did really well. And I was really surprised. And then afterwards, I talked to him about it. And I said, we talked a little bit about it. And he said, well, Mom, I was in the batting cages, which if you don't know, that's just a practice for hitting the ball. They're like little enclosed cages where someone throws the ball. And he said, I couldn't hit the ball at all. And I kept saying in my head, be one with the ball, be one with the ball, be one with the ball. And I couldn't hit the ball at all. And then I got in the game and I was fine and I did great. But that's what our conceptual mind wants to take an insight and put it into this form. And so you can imagine the kids in there saying, be one with the ball, be one with the ball. So he's kind of in a busier mind thinking about what to do instead of just being there present watching the ball. And no, that's totally understandable. And we probably all do that with insights. But it's really interesting to think about that once the insight happens, we could leave it alone. We can't, the conceptual mind doesn't even understand an insight. That would be like me being on the phone with those receptionists and say, we're all one, we're all one. This receptionist is really nice. She has her own life. And you're trying to talk yourself back into that beautiful feeling you have. And if you don't have the beautiful feeling, well, so what? Like any attention on the fact that you do or do not have the insight at the moment is just more thought. So busier mind. In our innocence, we're trying to get back to that insight. Just like when Sid said he saw something in a book, the how do you say his name? Krishnamurti book, and he looked and he looked and he couldn't find that same thing. You know, an insight is fresh, and it does, you know, it has its way with you, and it does to you what it does to you, and then you can move on and more insights will come. So try to keep those things out of, if you can, you know, remember when you're doing that, you're trying to put it in the conceptual mind. Like, don't be nervous, don't be nervous, don't be nervous. You know, I don't do that too much anymore because I know that's more thought on top of thought. Like, for instance, I had a talk with my son's boys baseball team, and I was talking about being nervous. And I was at George and Linda Pransky's, and I'm a mentee of theirs. And they'd never done this before. I think, Bonnie, you might have been there on filming. And they told each mentee to get up and talk about what they do in their practice. And there's a lot of really good mentees, and I was going to get up. And if you looked at me at that moment, I was just had a big puss on my face. I was like, I don't want to do this. I hate speaking in public, which isn't true. But my mind was just like, so yuck. I totally did not want to do it, 1000%. And then one of my cute girlfriends starts taking a video of me about to do it. And then my son, who was there too, says, you know, and I'm about to get up. And I just didn't, I knew enough to know, who cares if you don't want to do it? Who cares if you feel like crap? Who cares if you're so pissed off and you know you're going to be terrible? I got up, Bonnie, they couldn't shut me up. I was great. I mean, I wasn't great like in an ego way. It just, my truth came out and it was fun. It was fun. I just looked at the people, told them my story, and I was done. And I wasn't bad at all. But had I spent a lot of time thinking about how I felt about doing it, then I would have been a mess. So that would be our second point. Sorry about that little noise. I'll skip to the myth of trying to be better than you are. Better than you are. The 40 years, I think it's more, 40 years I did of many self-help groups, which have lots of valid things in them, were all based on me being better. I wanted Wendi to be better. And I'm going to try to explain this in a best way possible. So the other day, I had a client that talked about something like Dick and Benninger and how it feels better in his life to be really loving and wonderful. We all know that's who Dick and Benninger is. Well, I don't know exactly what I pointed out in him, but what I saw was how human beings take this idea or concept that it would be great to be loving to everyone, to just feel pure love to everyone. And then from outside in, they try to monitor and make themselves be beautiful and loving. And then they turn that into a thing, like of how you should be. And then they end up, I've done that I think we all have done it, like with my parenting, trying to be always loving and kind when you really want to strangle the kid. And what ends up happening is you're like in a big knot trying to monitor your behavior. Okay, it's nice to be, so my husband and I did some work with the Pranskys about having goodwill to each other. So then you start to think, okay, this is a good way to be. Let's be this way. But that's in a way from an outside perspective of how you should be. And if you're always over there trying to be a certain way, it, to me, it makes me not be so happy with myself. And then if I'm not so happy with myself, then I'm going to do more monitoring of who I am. So genuinely, the way I see the principles and this understanding is being just grounded in who you are, which, okay, more buzzwords. You get a new thought about life and an insight that changes you. And I didn't have to go back to the receptionist and say, Wendi, be a good person. Be like Dick and Bettinger. Love everybody. It just made sense to me from a place. And then I no longer did that. But that monitoring, okay, Wendi, don't yell at your kids. You shouldn't yell at your kids. You have to always be nice to them. That monitoring actually takes away from just being present. It's more thinky. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with who you are right now, even if you're yelling at your kid. You know, I sometimes like will just get mad or yell at my kid. I could apologize later. I'm just myself. I get judgmental. Yeah, it's sweet. In the big picture of life, I'd love to just love everybody because they're all kind of just me anyway. But if I saw that really clearly, that everyone's me, then I probably would have that insight and would feel that way. But we're human. And so I say, let it hang out. Let the humanness hang out. And as you just allow yourself to be 100% human, you start moving and then you say, oh, well, that doesn't feel good. And then maybe you see, oh, that's coming from some silly idea I had. So this scoring and keeping score, like other things I used to do. I used to think, I did this thing called option, which is about asking questions to your beliefs. And sometimes you'd get this beautiful insight because you'd say, oh, I believe that. That's ridiculous. And then you'd get quiet like you do in the principles. So I remember I'd ask questions about my relationship with my mother, may she rest in peace. And I'd have this little scorecard going, okay, if you could get home and be with your mother without arguing in the first 5 minutes, then you really understand this. You really understand this peace and loving. And so what do you think happened? The first 5 minutes, argument, couldn't stand her, got to get out of the room, loved her, but just couldn't be with her. And so, you know, like when you're feeling in that low mood now, and with my husband, if I feel this, I can't stand it right now, I allow my wisdom to either move me out of the room, or I know that it's going to pass. I have humanness, and all of us do. Or would we be here? Would we still be here if nobody had their personality and their humanness? So that's how I look at that. So if you were a fly on the wall in my house, you'd hear me acting stupid and crazy and gossiping and yelling at my kids, but a lot less than I ever used to do. So much more love comes in my picture, you know, so much more gratitude. And even in the last few months, I've gone through some stuff with the cancer that's been painful physically. And I haven't, oh, that's the being better than you are. Yay, I forgot this. That's the thing. I had some physical, really bad pain. And I had this idea that if I was better, I'd be able to deal with pain better. And I was acting around pain like a big baby, but it was very painful. And it just occurred to me, I swear, it was like, I should be like, I don't know, these stories you hear about people that just transcend pain and they say beautiful things about pain. And I was like, this just sucks. This isn't beautiful. It hurts. I can't, my whole life, all I could feel is this pain and I can't operate properly. And there was a part of me that not a part of me, there's all one me. So, but I wanted to be better than I was. I wanted to be one of those people that could come on and talk to my people that come to my webinar and say, oh, my transformed pain, I'm so wonderful and all that. And then it occurred to me, no, I'm not transforming any pain here. It sucks. And that's the way it is. And I don't have to be better than I am. And do you know that took the load off? It's just like, why not just be who you are? I'm really good at lots of things. I'm not good with pain, or maybe I am. I don't even know, but it hurts and I don't like it. But what I noticed with that is I didn't add unhappiness or unhappy thoughts or ideas of the future onto the pain. What I got better at, and when I continue to get better at, is if I'm in the pain in the moment, if I fast forward that to what the pain might mean, then I'll be an emotional mess and a physical mess. So I try to just stay in the moment as best I can with it. And I'm pretty good at that. But to be this on the cloud, pain is wonderful, it's just not me. And maybe one day I hold out hope that I can just transcend it. So that being better than I am only caused me more thinking. Why not just be exactly who you are? It's like I always look at the animals in the forest. The giraffe is a giraffe. Now, how many times in my life did I want to look like a Barbie doll? Well, I was never a Barbie doll. And a giraffe is never an elephant. And that's how we are. We're all these little cute personalities walking around doing the best we can and innocently trying to do better because we think that we're not enough. But we are. I'm enough with not being able to transcend pain. I'm enough with yelling at my children and my family from time to time. And since we all know the yelling is thought and me all crunching it up in my mind, who cares? I'm just a human being, just like everybody else. So that was the myth of trying to be better than you are. And then with that would be the living in the true not knowing. Listen, if I take the pain and I think that means I know something about my future, that's not going to help me. It's only going to scare me. If I think I know something from my past, that's not going to help me. So, in the simplest thing is, when I was telling Bonnie I didn't have a title came from absolutely nothing. I didn't even try to get a title. And we have that available to us. Sometimes we forget, but we have that available to us. If I go in with a client and I know exactly what I'm going to say, I'm a big fat liar because I don't know. It's like a kid at baseball. If they know exactly how they're going to hit the ball, they're busy thinking about how they're going to hit the ball. They don't even know what the pitcher is going to throw at them. And same thing with everything. And living in the true not knowing, just being here in this moment without thinking we know, as much as, that doesn't mean then you make a technique to try to live in the true not knowing. You just notice and you have an insight and you move on. But if I didn't do that, see, that's one of the things that cancer gave to me. I can't live in the future because I'll be under my bed crying all day. Because if I'm putting meaning on every pain, which I do occasionally, but not so much anymore, then I'll be sure I'm going to die and in pain. And that doesn't sound too fun to me. But why not enjoy my life? Like when those people in that seminar, they're so busy trying to find the cure. Well, they're trying to find the cure to have a nice life, right? But they're missing out. It's like they're missing the nice life right now. So that's all I think I have. That took a long time, that 30 whole minutes. So you guys ask questions. Anything.
Hi, Wendy. It's Kajal here from London.
Hi.
Hi.
I remember you.
Yes.
I remember your cute face.
Thank you. So I was asking about a friend of mine. Last year, she said she had this thought, and the thought said she doesn't have long to live. And since then, she's just been withering away. Every doctor that she's been to has said it's a mental problem. It's all in the mind. And she's convinced that it's not in the mind. I saw her today, this afternoon, and she's really wasting away. She says, my hair is just coming out in clumps, my teeth are falling off, and the doctors refuse to believe that there's something physically wrong with me. Her family has given up on her, thinking it's all mental. How can one help?
I don't really know. What do you think in your heart of hearts that you can help her with?
All I said to her was, I couldn't deny the symptoms. And who am I to say whether it's mental or not mental? But all I could say is that definitely the symptoms are there, but what she's adding on to it is obviously mental. And she's more worried. I said, what is your biggest worry at the moment? And she thinks that she has this genetic disorder, which means that she's not going to live very long, but more importantly, that she's passed it on to her children. And she is starting to see symptoms now in her children. And that's her biggest worry.
Well, she has a very strong mind. I would say keep doing what you're doing and just keep really deep listening to her, and you'll know what to say that will be helpful. I liked what you said about the adding on, because even if it were true, as far as doctors are concerned, I don't know what they're saying behind my back, but I truly do have cancer. It really, it seems to be true. I'll hold out for a miracle, but I don't have to live in the experience of the cancer. It's like, I think I heard Linda Pransky once say, you can have your experience without your experience having you. And to me, all that means is you don't have to be unhappy about your experience. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Because if it makes sense to you a little bit, then I feel like it'll come through you in a way that maybe she can hear. Because all that add-on suffering, it's like sometimes when human beings do that, we're just innocently trying to make sure that we take care of ourselves. So we get the children to come in. And if we scare ourselves enough, we'll take them to the doctor and do all these things. We think. But the truth is, when we're clear, our IQ raises about what to do in any situation. So she might be receptive to hearing something from you, and she might not. But even if she does have those symptoms, and even if they're true, I'm living without spending a lot of time thinking about what's going to happen, because I know that will upset me and it won't help. And so I also know, looking at all those sweet people desperately trying to live their lives, if they're so desperate, so there was 30 doctors at that conference I told you about, Mexico, Germany, and Russia, and all these different ideas about cancer. How could they hear if what's right for them? Because something's right for everyone. So maybe there is something wrong with her. But if she settled down a little bit and got to a peaceful place, Now, if you, that makes sense to you, right?
Yes, it does.
So then just with that in mind and going to sit with her and knowing that underneath, that's just a bunch of thought that she has. Sometimes we think we're protecting ourselves with those thoughts. So if you see her as this perfectly whole, beautiful individual that's having thoughts, it's like the wires are a little crossed, just like my wires was crossed about the calling the receptionist and being mad at them. My wires was crossed, and that was making me a less effective communicator, because then I was trying to make them like me with all this crossed wires, like validate me, why don't they care, all this crap. But once that crap went away, I was a much more effective communicator. So as you've settled down about it and you see that she is a healthy human being, then the more her health comes through, the more she could maybe find them. Maybe there's one doctor in the whole entire world that would diagnose her with something. Maybe there is. But if she could do it out of the enjoyment of her life, she'll find better. She'll find a better answer, you know? And then you're just her friend that's there that knows she's healthy. And the days that you think that she's messed up, which is totally normal, you go back and take a look at yourself and say, is that true? You know, like, or do whatever you do to come back to a place where you can be neutral about knowing she's healthy. Because that's like, there's a pure, like, you're sitting in me, you and me are sitting together, and I'm feeling just totally messed up. And you're this pure woman that just knows that Wendi Saggese is perfectly healthy, when Wendi Saggese has no clue she's healthy. And through that, I might be able to see something new.
Excellent.
And if not, it doesn't matter. You just love the heck out of her anyway.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks a lot, Wendi. Thanks.
Glad to be helpful. Come on, cute people. Ask me a stupid question. Just anything.
I'll tell you what I heard when you opened the talk with the story about being at the conference. You know how you hear things and then, you know, an insight or something new, and then it comes around a while later, and then it comes around again, you know, and you keep hearing it deeper. I really heard that we spend so much time doing things to try to live the life we want to live instead of living the life we want to live. Does that make sense? And, you know, it's you were talking about it from the perspective of people who have cancer and are desperately want to extend the life that they're living. So they're looking for treatment. And it hit me that I love working from home. And I can get so caught up in the thinking of, I got to get this done. I've got to do this, because if I don't get this done, I won't be able to keep working from home, instead of enjoying the fact that I'm doing something I really enjoy doing and get to do it from home, you know? And it's like we spend so much time in our life, or I spend so much time in that hamster wheel, you know, of trying to make sure that I'm doing the things that are going to let me live the way I want to live, instead of living the way I want to live, and then allowing the new thoughts to come. Love that.
Really neat. That's always my hope, that people don't get freaked out by me saying the cancer thing, and see that anything I say about cancer, since that happens to be my experience, that it's equal. It's it hurts more sometimes, but it's equal about anything we do. It's, you know, like how often are we just over there and not just here enjoying what we're enjoying? Because when we enjoy like our progress out of that, it's like soil. It's like you're fertilizing your soil with the progress, and out of that more plants grow, more things happen. But it's so easy to go to the dark side and say what's not or what possibly is bad and think that that's the way that it's going to change. I do have another cute little story that I always talk about, that, and it's my Wendi story from my perspective, but it was with George Pransky, unless somebody has a question. I guess not. Well, anyway, first let me start with, you know those, do you guys, some of you Europeans and stuff, did you ever have those giant red magnets in kindergarten where they show you how it picks up the nails? They're demonstrating how magnets work. So I was at this corporation with George Pransky, and I was one of the mentees. So what we would do is he did most of the speaking, and the mentees would take the people in small groups. There was about 50 people, 10 mentees. And George did his thing, you know, everyone could picture George and his characterness. And he felt like it was going well. And me coming from my cynical, negative background, when we all met the mentees with George, I said, well, George, in my group, everybody is saying, why is he talking so much about thought? He's already talked 2 days about thought. We get it. We're making over 300,000 a year. You know, like they didn't say those words, but they were all on the upper 1% of intelligent people that are making tons of money. We get it. He keeps going over thought and thought and thought. And they were bored. And you and I know it takes a while to understand thought, but whatever. So I go up to George afterwards and I said, you know, well, in my group, they're, you know, really discouraged and they're not getting it. And I saw this man who's been doing this 40 years. And this is, again, this didn't really happen. This is from my perspective. And to me, he got discouraged when I told him what I told him. And I felt like there was like one of those magnets, and the magnet was called discouragement, pulling him over in this way. And he just looked over at me and he said, I'm not going to go towards the discouragement. I'm not going to talk about this right now. And I saw this human being like kind of make a choice to not move towards the dark side of discouragement because he had a whole nother day to perform and to talk. And he didn't want to talk about it right then, but he got up in front of these people and he was fantastic. He talked about what he said, which may not really translate, was, see, the people thought that they knew that thought created feelings and not circumstances. They said, yeah, we get it. Thought creates feelings. Well, so then he went around the room and he said, who here thinks that I think he started that 10% thought creates circumstance. No, wait, thought creates feelings. Sorry about that. So who here thinks that it's 10% thought creates feeling? The rest is due to circumstance. And so people raise their hands at different levels. And I just felt like he got to the crux of exactly where people really were without them just saying, yeah, we get it. And he was brilliant. And he brought together a whole nother understanding. And to be honest with you, I actually spoke at a conference in New Jersey later on that year. And a lot of the talk of the conference was about thought. And I did the same thing because they were all high and saying that, oh yeah, thought, but they didn't really believe it. And so then I just said, who here? I did the same thing. And I said, well, I'm telling you that cancer, the circumstance of cancer does not create my feelings, it's thought. And if I could say that, then anyone can. And so the two parts of the story would be that any human being could move towards discouragement, thinking that that's where they're going to find the answer. But that's like moving towards like if you have two pots of soil, you're moving towards the dead soil to try to get new life. And he knew, even though the human being almost went there or seemed to want to go there, tempting, he knew to go towards the new fertilized soil. And that's where the life comes. So I just found that, in my perspective, so interesting to watch him really know that. And you can't control your thinking. Thinking comes and goes, but you can help yourself out. It's kind of like Thomas's baseball game, my son. He's had a great year this year, probably because he listens to Sid every night. And all the coaches have told me, you know, because he's trying to get into college, he really helped himself out this year. Like, he really performed well. And that's made the colleges very interesting. So thoughts come in and they go out. And there's no need to control them because they're transient anyway. But we can help ourselves out. We can have a thought and not spiral into it, and remember that that's not where the answers lie. I have another. Is there a question? I can't. You have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you can. Right. Can I just say something? I'm in Milton Keynes, actually, not that far from you. I've got your name.
Wendi,
I don't know.
You're in where?
Milton Keynes. It's near London.
Oh, okay. I'm in San Diego.
Which is in America, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's huge. England's only small. Although everything's only small, isn't it? We're only connected by a thought. I'd just like to say thank you very much for talking to us. That's really, and you know, I wish you well with your cancer as well. Also, Dickon Bettinger is in Milton Keynes in June. Yeah, this month. He's doing a 2-day talk, or spending 2 days with us here in Milton Keynes with a friend of mine, Steve Adair. He's organised it.
Oh, nice. I think that's probably on the 3PGC website as well. Well, good. Are you going to get to go to?
Oh, I'm going. I've got my ticket. Yeah, 2 days. So it's, I'm really excited because I came across this last year, and I brought it into my own work, and I find it's the thing that makes the difference. So yeah, I'm just loving it. So I saw this on the emails. I thought, I want to listen, and just enjoying it all.
Lovely. Thank you so much for coming, and enjoy.
Thank you for having me.
For me.
I will do.
Anyone else? Or did you have anything else to say? Well, any more questions, I'm happy to answer. You guys know my website, and you know the 3P Global Community has revamped everything. And if you're not a member already, you can join. And it's just wonderful. You can get this so much for free. I mean, there's so many things you can pay for too, but in between, there's so much for free. They keep putting new things on. They've updated everything. It's just a wonderful thing. And as it should be, because this is a very simple understanding. It's magical, but it's not like special. It's just simple understanding that changes lives. And I feel so blessed to have learned it. I probably wouldn't be here because I don't know how I would have gone through all the stuff I've gone through without it. And my son, my whole family has been so affected. My relationship with my husband is fantastic. I never thought, I was thinking about divorcing him that would always be in here, that would be like, okay, I could always get divorced. It was like constantly running. And so afraid of doing the wrong thing with my children. And now my kids are really healthy, emotionally healthy people. My relationships are better. My business is better. My thought about me, I was the most insecure person. I so wanted to not be me. And I don't even experience those thoughts anymore. It's really a miracle. If I could, I would say to people, if I could change, if you're not seeing it, if I can change, anyone can change. And sometimes it takes a minute because a lot of the words within the principles seem similar to other things, but there's something very, very different. Took me a while, like a couple of years. One day I walked up to Michael Neal when I first learned the principles. I didn't even know this until Michael Neal told me a couple of years back. I was in a restaurant where the Pranskys are in Lacana, Washington. And he told me this story about meeting me. And it was very in the beginning of my journey with the principles. And I went to Los Angeles where he was speaking with a girlfriend of mine. And we ran into him in the elevator. And I said to him, to me, in my mind, I was thinking, he's done all the same kind of things I've done, in the self-help stuff. So I just run into him and I said, well, I should be speaking with you. Why can't I speak with you? Can I speak with you? And he looks at me and he says, give it a minute. And so when he told me about this 4 years later, I had to crack up because here I was thinking I wasn't a very confident girl. And I thought I knew what he was talking about. I really did, but I really didn't know because like I said, a lot of the words are similar. But, it's from your experience that you experience it. So, with your clients and stuff, just give it a minute. It takes a minute for them to really see it without all the jargon, all the busy mind of jargon and other things we've done. So anyway, I think we're done. It's been so fun and so lovely. And I like all of you. And be happy to message me, ask me questions, Facebook friend me. Look at the stuff on the 3PGC. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to learn. Lots of Sid Banks stuff. Like I said, my whole family, we listen to Sid Banks pretty much every night we go to sleep by him. And every now and then somebody pops up and says, my husband will say, oh, I had an insight, or I'll say something, or my son. So keep going. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wendi. This was really an enjoyable conversation. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing everything. And I just want to let everybody know that the next webinar is on June 12th, and it's with Denise Holland. So hopefully we'll see you all live then, and enjoy until. Bye, everyone.
Bye.